Hello, I'm Mike Stenta, and I'm the lead developer of farmOS. We just put out a new release, the 13th beta release of farmOS. So the version number there is 7.x-1.0-beta13. You can find it on Drupal.org or via links on farmos.org. So I'm just going to go over a couple of the new features in beta 13 and give you a quick demo. So to find the new release, you can go to drupal.org/project/farm. This is the official project page on drupal.org for farmOS. Scroll down to the bottom here and you'll see the downloads 7.x-1.0-beta13, and you can download a tarball or a zip file. For installation instructions, you can go to farmos.org, and there is a section on hosting your own farmOS with installation instructions. Or if you'd like to have your farmOS hosted by me, you can go to farmier.com and sign up for a free 30-day trial of farmOS hosting. So the new things in farmOS beta 13. In general, I changed the theme a little bit, so things are a little bit nicer looking. We're using the Bootstrap Simplex theme. So this is something that's a drop-in theme framework that just provides the overall style for buttons and typography and tables and that kind of thing. So previously we were using the paper Bootstrap theme. I was playing around with Simplex and I just liked it more, so I switched to that. In addition to the Simplex theme, I also added the field groups module from Drupal, which now gives us a much better and organized experience for filling out fields within logs and assets when you're making records in your farmOS. So for example, if I create a new observation log, this general information field set will show me just the bare minimum fields here. So the date is preset to when you open it up, and I can say observed germination of my peppers, for example. You can set the type, and right now this is based off of a vocabulary, so you can add more terms to this if you want. In the future, we're going to expand that so that modules can provide their own terms too. And then the other fields are grouped into field sets according to what they're used for. So it's just a little bit more organized than it was before. For example, if you want to link your log to certain assets, you can open up this field set and then click Add Items. So I'm going to filter down to my peppers. And I'll select these peppers. And so I'm basically creating an observation saying that these have germinated now. I can also say what area they were in when I made this observation. I'm going to leave that blank because I don't really need that right now. You can record a quantity along with an observation if that's useful. You can also record a specific geometry. So I can say, yes, my peppers were right here when they germinated. And that'll record a data point. I'll talk about this movement field set in a minute because that's another big feature. Notes, they germinated very well. And then file attachments are now with the your photos and file fields are now within this file attachments group. So the field groups are just a nice way to kind of organize and simplify the log and asset interfaces. So one of the great new features we have is CSV exports. So this is one of the most commonly requested features. So now any of your lists in farmOS, if you go and look at your plantings, animals, equipment, all your asset lists and all of your log lists now have this little CSV button down at the bottom. So you can export everything you're looking at, and even if you filter down to a certain, even if you use this filter feature up here to filter the list, it'll then export that to the CSV. So just to show you, I'll save this to my desktop, and it should open up automatically for me in LibreOffice. This will also work with Microsoft Excel spreadsheet program. Basically any program that can open a CSV file. And there you have it. So right now the CSV exports are just sort of a first pass and pretty basic. They will include any of the columns that are in these lists right now. So it might not be everything that's on the log itself, because that can be sort of have a lot of different associations and values on them. But as we move forward, if there's new columns that make sense to add to these to make these exports even more useful, we can go ahead and do that. So the next thing I'll show is the movements feature. So previously, we had a separate log type for movements. So that would actually show in this list. Now, almost any log itself can create a movement. So for example, if I want to say that I moved my, let's go to an animal list here. And let's say I'm moving one of my chickens here. So what I can do now is I can create an activity log. And I'll even just skip all these other fields and go right down to this new movement field set. And I'll say that I moved them to the secret garden. So just like previously with the movement logs, you can specify the movement to, the movement from, and a specific geometry of that movement. This is optional, but if you want to say that they were in an even more specific place within that secret garden, you can do that by drawing on the map here. So if I just go ahead and save this now, because I left everything else blank, it actually creates a log that is automatically named move, light barred, the chicken's name, to secret garden, the area where I moved them. And it shows these fields. So it shows the asset, whoops, the asset was this chicken. The movement to is that area. And the movement from got automatically filled in with the area that the chicken was in previously, which was just my property in general. And then also the geometry gets filled in automatically based on the area from the movement to. These all existed previously in the movement logs when they were their own log type, and so they continue to work the same way in this new system. So I'm just going to delete this log because I didn't actually move my chicken. What else is useful about this is that I can say I observed that a movement took place. So for example, if I say I had a cow that got out of their fence, I could click on them, and this isn't a cow, this is just another chicken, but I can say add an observation, and then create an observation record where I also define a movement within that. So it's less of an active movement and more of just a passive observed movement. So now you can use movement logs. You can use multiple types of logs to create movements within farmOS. So I think that's going to be really useful. And one of the main reasons we did that was with plantings. In order to say that a planting was in a certain place, you had to create a movement log. But movement logs were different than seeding and transplanting logs. So when you were creating and planting, you had to create both a seeding log and a movement log. The seeding log to say how much you seeded, and the movement log to say where it went. So that was tedious, and we decided that overall having the movement fields within lots of different log types would be more useful. So now when you're creating a planting, you can say, okay, I am doing a seeding of this planting, and along with that seeding is a movement. So I'm saying that I moved this planting to this place when I seeded it. So I think that's going to be a lot more useful, should make creating plantings a lot quicker. The next feature I'll show is the general parents and lineage tracking field. So previously, there was a parent field on animals. So let's see, I'll go to one of my animals. So you can see that this records the parents of that animal. So that was great, but then as I was using it and as I was using farmOS myself, I realized that field would actually be really nice to have on other asset types, for example, on plantings. So I saved my garlic from last year. So now I can record that this garlic came from last year's garlic. So that is the parent of this one. So this can also be used if you're doing your own custom breeding for creating your own varieties. It's just a great way to sort of track the lineage of assets backward in time. So if I click on that previous last year's garlic, now there's also this list down at the bottom that says children, and that'll link to any children. So that works the same way as it used to on animals, but now it also works on plantings. A couple of other new features. So on equipment logs, or sorry, on equipment assets, now there's 3 new fields. You can add the manufacturer, the model, and the serial number information. So those are just some useful things. Also, on any fields that have photos, on any records that have photos or file fields, now you can actually perform multi-uploads. So you can select multiple images at the same time and upload them. Previously, you had to do one at a time, and that was kind of tedious. The last thing I'll talk about is Docker. So if you're interested in hosting farmOS yourself, I would highly recommend checking out Docker. So Docker is a system for creating containers that run a specific piece of software on your computer. And it's really useful for managing multiple versions of things and automatically upgrading them. So we created an official Docker image for farmOS. It's available on hub.docker.com/r/farmOS/farmOS. So you can see the different tags that are available. Here is the latest one, 7.x-1.0-beta13. And on farmOS.org, under development/Docker, you can find some documentation for how to use this. Now, this is maybe a little bit more advanced because it does require using the command line to start your containers and install Docker and that kind of thing. These instructions should help with that. The benefit of this over, going through a normal Drupal-based installation is that all of the dependencies of farmOS are automatically installed, and you know that they're all going to work together because it's sort of all packaged together as one container. So that means it'll include the correct version of PHP and Apache. It'll create a MariaDB database for you, and it will also install some of the underlying PHP libraries that farmOS makes use of, like the Geos library for working with geodata, and the BC Math library for doing string-based arithmetic for higher precision. So yeah, I would highly recommend checking that out. If you ever need help with something like that, feel free to jump into #farmOS on IRC, which is our chat room. You can get to that by going to farmOS.org and clicking this link here, farmOS on Freenode. farmOS.org is a great place to find other information for all kinds of things too, so feel free to check that out. I hope that this video sort of helped with the process of introducing the new features. I'll try to do this each time I put out a new release. I also will release a newsletter to kind of describe that, so you can sign up for that at farmear.com. I hope this was helpful. Enjoy the new release, and I'll talk to you later.